What's up, and welcome to Michael's Dream Garage. Today I'm going to be filming a video with my 1987 Ferrari Testarossa. I have that right behind me. This is the car that Doug DeMuro filmed with about 4 years ago, and filming it in the same spot as well. So I'm going to show you around the car and maybe take it out for a drive. Hope you enjoy. So let me give you a tour of the Testarossa. The Testarossa was the successor to the 512 BB, which came before it. When designing Testarossa, they wanted the radiators to be behind the driver. So that's where the iconic side strakes come in. The radiators are mounted sideways across here on each side, and they had to leave a large opening for airflow to get in. The air from that radiator comes out from behind the wheel and up through these top vents in the engine compartment. Following around to the engine, it is powered by a 5-liter flat V12 engine, so the pistons are shooting out sideways. Everything is stacked on top of each other for better packaging, so all the air intakes come in through the top. We hit the engine. We have the clutch in the back, followed by a gearbox which sends the power down and under to the transmission, and then that sends the power back out to the wheels. So everything is packaged on top of each other. Now, the timing belts have to be done, according to Ferrari, every 2 years. This requires pulling of the engine out the bottom of the car, and it takes out the transmission, suspension, and an entire separate subframe. As you can see, the subframe is right here. Here's the main frame and body of the car. So I've owned this car for about 6 years, probably 5 years since I did my timing belt change. So I'm looking at possibly considering doing the timing belts this year, maybe early next year. So maybe I'll film a video on that one. Moving along, this car is a 1987 model year. From 84 through 88 and a half, they had the center lock bolts which held on the wheels. These, as I'll show in a clip, are pretty tedious to remove. I thought it was kind of fun when I bought the car, but when I've had to remove all 4 wheels for service and maintenance and things like that, it's been pretty tiring. So let me cut to a clip right now of removing the wheels, and you'll see how it's done. Alright, so this will be fun. So this is the tool. It's a nice long wrench. This is a replacement lead hammer that I bought. Weighs about 6 pounds, I believe. And this is the passenger side of the car, which means the threads are opposite. So if you want to remove the wheel nut on this side, you have to turn it to the right. So you take your large hammer and you just start pounding away. I already loosened this one because it is a pain in the ass to remove normally. Now you can remove the wheel nut, and the wheel is supported, so no risk doing this. But you have this nice chrome wheel nut, the little Ferrari horse on it, and that holds on the wheel. Put it back on, you spin it backwards, line up the threads, tighten it back in, and it's the same thing. Beat it with a hammer. I heard that the torque spec for this thing is 325 foot-pounds, I believe, which basically comes down to get a hammer and hit it a lot of times. And miss like that. So you just keep beating it until it can't move anymore. And that's it. So they expect you to sit at the side of the road changing the tire like this. Now, when I've had to work on the car, removing all 4 wheels is tiring. You have to do it basically in sections just because of how tiring it is to swing the hammer. Alright, so you should have just seen a clip of me removing the wheels from the car. Let's circle back around and do a tour of the interior. So this car has a red and black interior. I don't know how many were made in this interior color, but I've seen a few. This exterior color, I've heard, is 1 of 10 for 1987. So that's pretty rare. It's Grigio metallic. Moving inside, pretty standard gauge cluster. The car redlines at about 6,800 RPM. And down and across, we have where a radio should be. The cars were shipped without a radio so that you could, each dealer or customer could pick which radio and equipment they wanted installed in the cars. Though Ferrari was nice enough to put the FM antenna in the windshield, and they did include speakers, which you can see there, and a little tweeter up here. 1987 was a model change year. It was a change in design. They added 2 mirrors, outer mirrors, down low, versus the previous cars had 1 mirror mounted up high. So they added those 2 mirrors, added this leather bolster, basically. It's an anti-submarine submarining padding, so when you crash you don't slide underneath the dashboard. They added these automated seat belts, which move back and forth, and it will buckle you in automatically. Moving down the center console, we have the fuel gauge and our oil temperature gauge, along with a clock. Clock lights up when the key is in it. The 5-speed dogleg gated shifter, so you have to pull down and to the left to get into first gear. Along with all the AC controls and your window controls and things like that here. On the ceiling, we do have controls for our fog lights right here and our rear window defrost, along with just a blank button. I really can't think what would be in that position. They really didn't have too many other features back then. So that's the interior of the Testarossa. Let's go take it for a drive. Alright, well, now you find me on the road. I'm heading out of my neighborhood. Just driving along right now. And yeah, I'll try not to hit these cat's eyes in the road. It's kind of a narrow street with oncoming traffic, so we'll see how this part of the film turns out. So, what is the Testarossa? It is a 2-seater Grand Touring car from Ferrari. It was initially released in 1984, and it wasn't made for the track. It was made for covering long distances quickly. So this thing has a 25-gallon fuel tank, and it can average up to 15-ish miles per gallon. Some people have gotten up to 20 miles per gallon, depending on how you drive. So, you know, you can go pretty far. That's, I don't know, at least 400 miles in a tank, which is pretty good. So I've personally driven it 500 miles, but I did do a stop in between. So what's the Testarossa like to drive? That's what people have asked me. At gas stations, people ask me, oh, how fast have you gone? And someone didn't like the answer of 75. When they asked me that, I was on very old tires. The car was brand new to me, so honestly, I only took it up to freeway speeds at that point. But now, I've pushed it a little bit. Here's a nice, sharp left-hander. And it handles really well. It has no power steering. It has weak brakes, but it all works. Power is pretty good. It's 380 horsepower, but it's in a 2-ton car, so, you know, it was fast for the 80s. How about we say that? What I love about it is I can put my foot down for a nice long time, and basically, still, I'm not going 140 miles an hour at that point. Modern cars, you accelerate just a little too long on a city street, and now you are just breaking every single law. You're hitting felony speeds. This thing, you can put your foot down, and you're only going 55. So, you know, it's, you're not going to be going to jail at least. It'll be a ticket, but not jail. So, but I've had this thing up over, you know, on, of course, private roads up to 100 miles an hour, and it's been perfectly stable. It's been a great car for long-distance driving. I loaded up luggage and an iMac, actually. I was dropping that off with my uncle. I drove up to Radwood, Sonoma, and it was pouring rain the whole time, and it was a hell of a trip, but it was a ton of fun. I took it through the mud, and did a nice big detail session when I got home. Now this thing just handles great. So Doug DeMuro, as I mentioned earlier, reviewed this car. I reached out to him in 2016 and basically said, hey, if you're ever in Los Angeles, do you want to review a Testarossa? And back then he said, oh, like, yeah, hell yeah, Testarossa. He reviewed one in another video shortly before my video, but he did a more in-depth review with my car. And filming with him was great, and I'm glad he's now in California. He drove the car. Initial impressions he had were mixed. So this car needed some work, which I have since performed. The suspension was worn out, shocks were worn out, brakes, as it turned out, it had a stuck caliper, so we weren't getting full braking performance, and it just needed a lot of work. So since then, I've completely redone the suspension, new ball joints, new bushings, rebuilt the calipers, rebuilt the shocks, and now it just handles great. It drives like it should. So, it's a completely different car. If he drove it now, he would probably have even better things to say about it, and comment on why it's going up in value. So I'm going to put the windows down now. I have a stop sign coming up, and I'm just going to accelerate away from this stop sign. Just listen to that. That's an aftermarket exhaust I put on this car, and the stock exhaust, previous owner had hacked it to pieces and cut out the cats and just basically ruined it. My mechanic said we could either try fixing the old exhaust, or you can get a new exhaust and it would roughly come out at the same price. So I got the Capstro exhaust, and I'm so happy I did. The old one was much quieter than this, and it didn't have catalytic converters, so I added those so I can pass California emissions, and everything passes with flying colors now. Now, this is just an intro to the Testarossa. I plan on doing more videos on the cost of ownership, what it's been like to maintain, which I guess would be part of the cost of ownership video. I plan on talking about the engineering behind it, take off the wheels, put it on the lift, talk about what Ferrari had to do to fit the suspension, fit the engine, how you service the motor, things like that. And we'll see where it goes from there. I also have a few other toys which I'll be reviewing at some point. Let's just say one flies, so that should give a little hint of what it could be. And yeah, so if you like this video, please, I hate saying this, I hate when people do this, but please like, maybe subscribe if you feel like it. I'm just making these videos for fun, and we'll see where it goes. I've had great fun with this car, and I love sharing with other people. So if you enjoyed it, let me know. Please let me know in the comments if you want to know anything else. Thank you very much.